This is Santa Rosa Valley, a picture of suburban tranquility. But on the night of November 22nd, 1999, the facade of perfection would shatter forever inside this million-dollar hilltop home. Socorro Susan Caro, devoted mother, church volunteer and doting wife to Dr. Xavier Caro, was respected in the community. To friends and neighbours, she was everything a mother should be. But beneath that gentle exterior, a storm was brewing. Born around 1957 into a devout Catholic family of Latino heritage, Socorro's early years were marked by faith and community. She excelled in school, volunteered at church events, and seemed destined for a life of service and devotion. In 1979, during an externship at a medical practice, Socorro met Dr. Xavier Caro, a successful rheumatologist and a man of status. Their connection was instant. They began dating in 1980 and married 6 years later in 1986. Their lives seemed ideal. In quick succession, they welcomed 4 sons: Xavier Jr., known as Joey, in 1988, Michael in 1991, Christopher in 1994, and baby Gabriel in 1998. Socorro devoted herself entirely to motherhood and community involvement, coaching Sunday school, organizing bake sales, leading church choirs. Xavier built his medical practice, and together they moved into a stunning hilltop home overlooking Ventura County. Friends and parishioners described them as the picture-perfect family. "She was wonderful with her kids," recalled a fellow parishioner. "She was always there, volunteering at school, planning family picnics. We never could have imagined what came next." But beneath the sunlit facade lurked shadows of financial strain, emotional distance, and betrayal. By the late 1990s, cracks began to appear. In 1998 and 1999, Xavier discovered that Socorro was siphoning large sums of money to her parents, who lived in a secondary property the couple owned. Meanwhile, bills for his practice sat unpaid. In August 1999, Xavier fired Socorro from her role as office manager. Not only had she mismanaged funds, but she had neglected crucial financial responsibilities. That same month, he admitted to an affair with a female employee, further fracturing the marriage. The revelation of infidelity wounded Socorro deeply. Accusations of betrayal tore at her psyche. Arguments became more heated. Bottles of Prozac and Xanax appeared at her bedside. She saw a psychiatrist. They began marital counseling. But it was too little, Bim. Too late. Court documents later revealed Socorro suffered from chronic depression, a dependent personality, and alcohol dependence. She feared losing everything: her status, her home, and most terrifying of all, her children. Despite counseling and medication, the resentment festered. Socorro's extravagant spending, designer clothes, lavish dinners, family vacations, was a point of contention. Xavier desperately tried to rein her in, threatening divorce and seizing control of all the bank accounts. Socorro felt abandoned and betrayed. Monday, November 22nd, 1999, Thanksgiving week. The Caro home was tense. Xavier and Socorro sat down to dinner with their 4 young sons, margaritas on the table. Joey, just 11, objected to their drinking. At some point, Xavier removed Joey's television and video game console as discipline. Socorro defended her son. Voices rose, accusations of disrespect, love lost, and trust shattered. Xavier stood and announced he would sleep at his office. Socorro pleaded with him not to go. At approximately 8 o'clock that evening, Xavier drove away, leaving behind a distraught wife and their terrified children. In his absence, Socorro grew desperate. At his medical office, Xavier made several phone calls. His wife's tone shifted from sobbing to eerie calm. In a chillingly composed voice, she told him, "You always know the difference between right and wrong," and hung up. Xavier tried calling home again. No answer. He left work at 10:30 p.m., unaware of the horror waiting in his absence. Back at the residence, Socorro moved silently through darkened halls. In the master bedroom, she retrieved a .38 caliber Smith & Wesson revolver, one Xavier had purchased for home protection. She first entered Joey's bedroom, where the 11-year-old lay asleep. Socorro pressed the cold metal barrel to his temple and fired. One shot, Joey's life extinguished. Next, she crept to the bunk bed where Michael and Christopher slept. Michael, 8 on the bottom bunk, Christopher 5 above him. Both were shot execution style. 3 young lives ended in under a minute. Gabriel, the baby, just 13 months old, remained asleep in his crib, untouched. Socorro then placed the barrel against her own forehead and squeezed the trigger. But the self-inflicted wound failed to end her. Instead, it fractured her skull, leaving her critically injured. At 11:21 p.m., Xavier called 911. His voice quaking, he described the nightmare inside his own home. His children shot, his wife gravely wounded. Paramedics and deputies rushed in. Inside they found Xavier cradling baby Gabriel, blood-soaked socks in his arms, and the bodies of Joey, Michael and Christopher. Investigators worked swiftly. Blood-stain patterns, gunshot residue and forensic analysis pointed to Socorro as the lone perpetrator. Surveillance footage confirmed Xavier's alibi. He could not have been at the house when it happened. Socorro's own injuries, bruises, a fractured foot, a head wound, added a grim complexity. A forensic expert speculated the foot fracture could have resulted from a fall or struggle, but no evidence suggested an intruder or second assailant. In the hospital, her statements were erratic and groggy. "I don't remember. I might have fallen downstairs. I wrestled with a boy." Eventually, she fell silent. Swabs revealed a 0.13% blood alcohol level and prescription drugs in her system, underscoring her impaired state. Nearly 2 years later, in August 2001, Socorro Caro's trial began. Prosecutors described a calculated act of revenge, a mother consumed by rage over betrayal, punishing her husband through the most unspeakable cruelty. They played the 911 tape, presented forensic maps, and detailed each chilling moment. The defense countered with an alternate theory. Xavier, a successful doctor, had motive and opportunity to key his sons and frame his wife. They highlighted Socorro's mental health issues, her head injury and alleged memory loss, urging the jury to consider her incapacity. After weeks of testimony, the jury deliberated. On November 5, 2001, they returned a unanimous verdict, guilty of first-degree murder on all 3 counts. Socorro withdrew her insanity plea, choosing to face sentencing as a sane defendant. During the penalty phase, prosecutors emphasized the cruelty and premeditation. The defense pointed to her depression, substance dependence, and lack of prior criminal history. On December 10, 2001, the jury recommended death. Judge Donald Coleman, in sentencing on April 5, 2002, declared the murders willful, premeditated, and committed with malice aforethought. In a final courtroom outburst, Socorro accused her husband of betrayal, even as she was condemned. "How could you do this to us? Look at him, he's smirking." Socorro Caro was transferred to Chowchilla's Central California Women's Facility, assigned inmate number W 93,672. She would spend the next 23 years on death row under a state moratorium on executions. Public reaction was visceral. A community stunned that a beloved mother could commit such atrocity. At Santa Rosa Elementary, teachers and families held a memorial for Joey, Michael and Christopher. Church services and candlelight vigils honored their memories. Media comparisons to other maternal filicide cases underscored the complexity. Unlike Andrea Yates's admitted psychosis, Caro's motive was chillingly personal: revenge. Her appeals traversed the legal system, culminating in a 2019 California Supreme Court decision upholding her conviction and sentence. Despite procedural errors, the court found the forensic evidence overwhelming. Today, Socorro Caro remains on death row, a solitary figure in a cell at CCWF. She receives few visitors, her mother and a handful of jail ministry volunteers. She prays for redemption, yet the echoes of that night continue to haunt Ventura County. Some wounds never heal, some questions remain unanswered. The Caro case is a stark reminder that darkness can hide behind the brightest smiles, and that the most devastating betrayals can come from those we trust most. If you found today's case compelling, please give it a like, subscribe for more weekly true crime stories, and share it with a friend.